Hi everyone, this is just a quick addendum video that I'm making after the video that came out on Sunday talking about giving a sort of executive summary and overview of the resolution of the junior doctor strikes in England and what that means going forward for us as working doctors and for the union. What this video is, it's going to be much shorter and it's just specifically talking about the back pay because this is the area that's generated so much discussion. When I've been trying to update people on social media, there's been a lot of questions and I thought it might just be easiest to discuss that in its own video so that that can be shared if people are not sure or they want a bit more advice. The first question is obviously, why is there back pay at all? Why are we suddenly owed money where there wasn't money before? This is because when pay deals like the one that's been agreed with the government are agreed for an additional 4% on what we already had, they are applied across a financial year. That is to say, the tax year that runs from April to April, and because the nature of the agreement was an additional 4%, bringing us up to that total 22% over the 23-24 financial year and the 24-25 financial year, we have to go all the way back with any deal that's made to the beginning of the 2023 financial year, which is April 2023. That is where the backdated pay is coming from. The next question is obviously 4% of what? That is 4% of your gross, that is to say pre-tax, pre-deduction earnings that you earned while working during the whole backdated period. That is to say, if you earned £100, which would be a very small amount for a doctor to earn, in a month during that period, then you would receive another £4 for every 100 that you earned gross. Or for every 1,000 that you earn gross, you would receive another £40. And the table that you'll now see on the screen is the summary that's been written by the BMA for people who are in training contracts as a rough guide, assuming a standard 48-hour working week for someone at each grade in a junior doctor contract in training, roughly how much back pay you're owed. It's important to note that this is basic pay, so it does not account for out of hours work, on-call work, anything else that would result in a different amount of pay than your normal hourly pay. So nights, weekends, on-calls, any of these things that would result in you being paid a premium rate for your hours need to be calculated separately to the basic pay, which is what this table is about. So the next question is, who does that calculating? Do I need to be doing it myself? The answer to that is no. This is automatically calculated through a trust's payroll system. For almost everyone, this is going to be ESR, or the electronic service record. That has the full record of the hours that you have worked as an employee and the rate at which those hours are paid. So that is to say that given that all this work has been done in the past and you have already been paid for it, there is already an accurate record of the hours that you have worked. So this is simply a case of each trust going through this staff list and applying a new calculation automatically to the hours that you've already worked. So this does not have to be done by you. You don't have to submit a manual tax return. There is basically nothing for you to do. The NHS is sorting this out for themselves. The next question is then, who pays me? Is it my current employer or another employer? The answer to that is whoever your employer was at the time when the work is done, they are the ones responsible for paying you. So we're now in September 2024. If you perhaps change trusts or employer in August 2024, for example, but the answer remains the same. Wherever you're working now, wherever you're working at the time, it doesn't matter. This is all being done automatically by the employer at the time who has the record of your hours and the contract that you are on. Should you have to do any chasing or contacting anyone? No. The only reason why you should need to do that is if some money doesn't magically appear in your bank account in November, which is the answer to the next question, which is, when am I expecting to receive this back pay? The answer to that is that this back pay is expected for everyone affected by this situation in the November 2024 pay packet. So we're in the last week of September now, which means that most people will be getting paid this week. You can expect to see your back pay 2 months from now in November 2024. Another question that's come up is, what if I was on mat leave or sick leave or some other form of leave during this time. All of these things just have to be recalculated at the new contract rate. But in these cases, the advice is different. If you're on something like mat leave, maternity leave, or sick pay, then it is worthwhile reaching out to the trust where you were working or where you were let go on leave from to make sure that they know to redo those calculations, because they may not be registered as work done in the same way. So if you were on a type of long-term leave, then do get in touch with the trust so that they know simply to recalculate your pay from that time. Does it affect locum work? No. That is because locum work is done separately to any form of junior doctor's contract. Locum work basically represents a temporary contract that is drawn between yourself and the trust or whichever organisation you were doing the locum work for, because they were not done under the auspices of anything to do with the junior doctor's contract. Then long-term locum or temporary locum work will not be subject to any form of back pay because it's not eligible pay for the pay agreement. How about if I'm an international medical graduate and I've now left the trust, I've left the country, am I still eligible for the money? Yes, 100%. Whether you were in training or at trust grade, something like a junior clinical fellow or a standalone foundation year doctor, doesn't make any difference. If you were on the junior doctor's contract in some form, or you were on a contract that mirrors it, like a local junior fellow, a senior fellow, any kind of trust grade, SHO registrar, whatever, if you were doing work during the eligible period in an eligible role, then you are entitled to that money and you should expect to see it just like anyone else. And it's this group particularly that I'm really urging everyone to try and take care of. I personally have reached out to some international medical graduate, IMG, trust grade doctors that I've worked with across the last few years, and a handful either didn't think they were eligible for this money when they were, they didn't know that this money was even a thing, which is fair enough, or that because they weren't a member of the BMA that they might not be eligible for the money, or that they didn't take part in strikes that they wouldn't get the money. None of this matters whatsoever. It applies to all junior doctors and eligible doctors on a junior contract. Whether or not you took part in strikes, are part of the union, have now left the country, it doesn't matter. The point is no doctor gets left behind, and that was the terms of the agreement. So please, at the very least, share the link to the article where the table is on the BMA website in your group chats. Send it to colleagues if you're a more senior doctor and you've had trainees or trust grades. Make sure they all know that they are eligible for this money and they should be chasing it if they don't receive it in November. Is this money coming as a lump sum, and do I still pay tax on it? Yes to both of those things. It should come all as one lump sum, but it is still subject to any taxations, deductions, etc. that the rest of your gross pay was subject to. This is gross pay, not net pay. That is to say that it will still be subject to income tax, which for most people is going to be maybe 40% on this contract. It will also include pension contributions, which is usually 9.8% for the NHS pension, as well as any student loan deductions as well, given that most people on this contract will have a UK student loan. So yes, any deduction that is percentage based of your gross taxable pay and not a flat reduction, then yes, that will still apply to this money. But there we go, just a separate chance to talk about the money in a bit more detail and what you can likely expect. If you've got any questions or want to discuss things further, let me know in the comments. Take care and I'll see you next time.